Hello and welcome to my slideshow on how to fix the specialist problem currently in Battlefield 2042. So I'm not just here to tell you how bad the current specialist system is, I'm here to offer a solution. So firstly, why they don't work. So there are a few problems with the specialists. I think the biggest problem is that it just promotes the super soldier mentality. The idea that you can just play all the best stuff on the best specialist with absolutely no drawbacks at all. That therefore promotes playing by yourself. It promotes solo play over team play, because players will just gravitate to the optimal builds over any kind of team-based builds, which works fine for Battle Royale, which I think is what this game was meant to be, but it doesn't really work for a team-based shooter, at least in its current state. So here's a very fancy graphic I made. You'll see, if this game was played professionally at an esport level, right, every single player would play Sundance because Sundance is the best specialist in the game, right? There's no reason to play anybody else. You've got Wingsuit, you've got the heat-seeking grenades, bundle grenades. There's no reason to play any other specialist, right? Especially when you have the equipment that you've got available, right? So you'd only play Sundance, you'd then play the best weapon in the game. I've put a picture of the AK. I don't know if that is currently the best weapon. I haven't played the newest build of the game properly or for long enough. So for whatever the best weapon currently is in the game, let's say it's the AK, is the weapon you'll use. There's no reason to use anything else. You just use the best weapon because there's no restrictions, right? And then you use the best equipment in the game or the best grenade. So the best grenade is the motion sensor. Again, if you're using Sundance, you already have grenades. There's no reason to take another grenade. You'll take the motion sensor. It's the best grenade in the game. So there's no choice there. You have to pick Sundance. You have to pick the best weapon. You have to pick the best grenade. Your only choices are the equipment that you can choose, right? But you're limited, right? There are a few different equipments in the game, but realistically, you're only going to pick between four. You're going to pick the ammo box, the medic box, the rocket launcher, or the AA rocket launcher. Those are your only options, right? And even the medic box is a bit of a stretch. I think realistically, ammo box, rocket launcher, and AA are your three real options, right? So to win the game, you probably take the rocket launcher. And if they have a lot of AA, a lot of air vehicles that are really annoying, you take some AA as well. Those are your choices. You would take an ammo box if you're farming XP with your motion sensor. Other than that, there's no reason to take it. You certainly wouldn't take it to help your team. You would only take it to help yourself. And that is the problem. You take the most optimal build, the most optimal stuff for you to make you the strongest player on the team, and for no other reason than that. You would never pick any other specialist other than the best specialist. It's just a terrible system. It's a terrible, terrible system for a team-based multiplayer shooter. Terrible system. Now, someone on a Reddit post a little while back posted this idea of a class system as a solution to this, having a class system to fix the problem with the game, to fix the specialists. But their idea was to basically shoehorn the specialists into classes, right? So you just take the specialists and you put them in classes. I see the appeal. Obviously, it's in previous Battlefield titles, makes total sense. It's worked in those games. Why wouldn't it work here? It adds balance. It means that within those classes, you're restricted on the certain equipment, certain weapons you can have between each class. It's a much easier game to balance when you have a class system, because it's near impossible, in my opinion, to have every piece of equipment, every weapon, every grenade all work perfectly with every single specialist. There's just some combinations that are going to be stronger on some specialists than others, right? It's very hard to balance your entire game like that. Realistically, having a class-based system means you can balance your game much more effectively, because you can restrict. So you could have, say, for example, Sundance could never take a rocket launcher, for example, in theory, right? Which would make that class or that specialist a lot more balanced, right? In the current system, you obviously can't do that. My biggest problem with the class system, so I made a graphic. My biggest problem with the class system, this is the graphic I've got here is a kind of remake of, I couldn't find the original Reddit post, so I just kind of made a kind of hash version of it. Where you can see that I've basically split up the equipment into different classes, and I've split up the classes. I mean, Dozer could realistically maybe be engineer. I think they've got him listed as assault in the current game, but it doesn't make any sense. I don't think he really works as assault, to be honest with you. But the biggest problem with this is that you're still not using the specialist system. You're not using specialists at all. People who suggest that they want a class-based system, realistically, they don't want specialists. They just want a class system. They don't want any specialists in the game at all. The idea of having a class system with these specialists is pointless. The specialists add nothing to the game, right? You just want a class system, which I get, I understand. But I don't think DICE, as it currently stands, have any intention of removing specialists from the game. So I think to suggest a purely class-based system where you have equipment locked out is not the solution. I, however, have a middle ground. And I think this is potentially a solution not just for this current game, but for games going forwards. And that's the idea that specialists provide unique buffs for the squad, right? So each specialist would have their own unique buff that's like not AoE, but it's like, say, a movement speed buff. So you take this specialist in your squad and your entire squad has 25% move speed, right? Or something of those, or something like that. So you'll see this graphic I've done here. So you still have the classes, Assault, Engineer, Recon, Support, but they are split into, so each of these individual specialists would have a unique buff that they could bring to the squad, and they'd be based around the kind of style of that particular specialist. For example, Assault, giving move speed buffs, aim down sight buff, bonus XP for capping flags, the kind of the buffs that promote what that specialist is designed to do, right? But the beauty of this system is that you would build a squad based on what other people in your squad are already playing, what the map looks like, what the state of the game is, what you want to do as a squad, right? So first of all, these buffs would only be active when players are alive, right? This would promote the idea that you want to keep your squad alive, because if one of your squad mates dies, you lose the buff they bring, right? You want to keep your squad mates alive. You also want to play together. It would promote playing together, playing as a team, because again, working together, you can stay alive longer, as opposed to the current state of the game, and honestly previous Battlefields as well, where you just mindlessly run forwards towards the next flag. You just keep attacking. Don't think about anything else. You just spawn, run forwards, die. But with this system where you have buffs if you stay alive, you'd be more inclined to keep your squad alive. You'd be more inclined to play as a team, more inclined to play together as a squad. These buffs would also not stack. So this idea is that, let's say you wanted to move really fast as a squad, you wouldn't all take Sundance and all have move speed buffs and then have 100% move speed or something. It doesn't make any sense. You'd have, let's say one person plays Sundance, you get 25% move speed as a squad. If a second person is also playing Sundance, maybe you only get an extra 5% on top of that. And if 3 people are playing it, the third person adds nothing. The fourth person adds nothing. So you're incentivized to play different specialists, right? But you're not playing different specialists to take different equipment. You can still use anything you want. But you're picking specialists because of what they bring as the specialists, what they bring to the squad, what they bring to the team, right? Imagine a game where, like Recon, imagine one of your Recon specialists give you the ability to 3D spot. And if you don't have them in your squad, you can't see red dots like in the 3D world, right? You can only see them on the map. Imagine how game-changing that would be. Imagine building a team comp. Imagine you're a squad and you're like, you know what? We actually need to hold this flag. We're going to defend. We're going to be a defending squad. And so one of you takes bonus XP for flag defense specialist. One of you takes reduced blast damage specialist from the support class. One of you takes maybe infantry armor buff from another engineer class. Like, you take things to be a turtle, to defend, to work to hold flags, right? And the buffs you take promote that. And your squad is going to be more inclined to defend a flag if they have these buffs to help them defend, if you've built a squad around it. It seems a no-brainer. If you had, like, let's say you wanted to be an assault squad, you wanted a squad to push forwards, okay, well, maybe you take the move speed, maybe you take a bonus XP for capping flags, maybe you take passive healing increased, maybe you take spawning with extra mags from the support, right? Maybe you take it. There's a just seemingly vast combination of buffs that you could put together for different situations. And I've just made a few suggestions here, but there's obviously, you could come up with a long list of potential buffs that you could link to specialists, right? And then the decision becomes a lot more complicated when it comes to picking what you're going to play, how you're going to play. It's not just you spawn, you go, well, I'm going to play Sundance because they're the best, and I'm going to use this equipment because there's a vehicle on the map, right? Now it becomes, well, I want to play Sundance for this buff, but I want to play this guy for that buff. I want the spotting. My team's already got this specialist. I probably shouldn't play it as well because I'm going to not mid-max my buffs. There's just you start picking specialists based on how the team looks. You start picking specialists based on the abilities they provide. You start going, well, if I'm going to pick a recon, which one is best going to be suited for me? If I want to pick an assault buff, okay, which assaulter is going to be best suited for my playstyle in the coming map? It becomes so much more nuanced. It becomes so much deeper. You have so much more potential in this game and games going forward. Also, it's something that just isn't offered in other games. Like, you're not going to find this in another like large team-based shooter. You're not going to find it. It doesn't exist. It's a whole new world of possibilities for shooters that no one else is offering. This is a beautiful opportunity, not only to fix the current game, but to, as this universe, the Battlefield universe that EA and DICE want to bring forward. This is a beautiful opportunity to cement the future of Battlefield in progress, in a forward step. So yeah, I understand. You don't want to do classes anymore. You're done with the old rinse and repeat Battlefield. You want something new. This is it. Have squad benefits. Have buffs that support your entire squad, that change the dynamic, that you can actually build a team comp. Imagine that. Instead of just picking some random thing and just picking the best stuff, you build a team comp. Insane. It would be an absolute insane game changer, and I think a beautiful way to use specialists, as they currently are. Just add some buffs to them. You could even have stuff like, maybe if the squad is close together, the buffs are increased. Maybe you want to promote squads actually playing as squads. So if they're in like a certain vicinity, if they're close together, then maybe the move speed buff goes from 25% to 35%. Maybe the bonus XP goes from an extra 50% to an extra 75%, right? If you're all playing close together. Again, to promote squad play instead of, and moving away from the solo experience. There's so much more. And I can see the negative. The big negative here for me is that it could be hard to track what buffs you've got active, especially if they're only active when players are alive. But I think it's something you would learn. I think you would just have pictures on the screen of what buffs are currently running, and you would just learn from them. You would just learn, okay, I've got this running, I've got that running. As you played the game, you'd start to understand which specialists give which buffs and kind of what you're going to be getting into. If you look at the squad and you see what people are picking, you kind of understand the style of what the squad's playing. I just think it's a huge way to play the game. A new way to play the game that we haven't seen before, and I think is a benefit. A few further tweaks just to finish this off here. Is tweaks spelled EE or EA? I can't remember. Anyway, Spidey Sense. It's not called Spidey Sense. It's on Casper, his spotting thing that shows up, the red blinking thing at the bottom of the screen when an enemy's close. It shouldn't be on him. It should be on the Wallhack class, 100%. It makes no. I don't understand why it's on him, or I do. I get the idea. If you're flying a drone, then you should have a Spidey Sense to tell you when enemies are close, so you can jump off the drone and kill them and not die. But it just promotes a very negative play style. Why are you promoting someone sitting in a corner hiding on a drone? I don't understand. It should be on the wall hack class. It should be, if you're on the wall hack class, you're moving forwards towards enemies, your spidey sense tingles, and then you use your wall hack to see where they are. It makes way more sense. Maybe you could do some balancing, maybe be overpowered. It's thematically, it makes more sense than being on Casper. The wingsuit should be equipment. It should not be on Sundance. It makes no sense that Sundance has a wingsuit and grenades. I don't understand. They don't go together. I don't know why they're like that. The wingsuit should just be an equipment slot. It should be something that anyone could take, but you have to pick it over a rocket launcher. You have to pick it over C4. You have to pick it over an ammo box, right? If you want to be the wingsuit guy, then you can wingsuit around, but you're going to be weaker than everybody else. Like, you've made a sacrifice. Makes way more sense. Spotter drone should be equipment. It's very underwhelming as a specialist ability. SOFLAM should actually be Casper's specialist ability, I think. I think it's kind of wasted as equipment. I think it's quite powerful, I think. I think having it as a piece of equipment, maybe give it a few little buffs, maybe it spots a bit faster, maybe it locks on a bit faster, and just make it a specialist ability, a reason to pick one of the specialists, right? And last, but certainly not least, motion sensors should not be grenades. I can't believe these things are grenades. How is it justified? Who came up with it? Makes no sense at all. Why should a motion sensor be in the grenade slot? It's crazy. It's crazy that you can run motion sensor and ammo box. It's insane. The motion sensor is such a powerful tool. Why can anybody take it? Why is there no downside to taking it? It shouldn't be a grenade slot. It should be a specialist ability, in theory, or it should be an equipment. It should be something you have to take over a rocket launcher, and you definitely shouldn't be able to run motion sensor and ammo at the same time. It's just absurd. One absurd decision. Anyway, those are a few final tweaks. This is the main system here. Again, buffs, squad buffs based on specialists. I honestly think it's the future. And if there is anyone on the dev team or anyone on a future dev team, perhaps making a different game, I'd love for someone to look into it. I think it's a great idea. And that's my TED Talk. Thanks. Bye.